Coming up on Hawkeye Sports Report, the football team's struggles continue. They're back on the road this week against a much improved Indiana Hoosier football team. Rob Brooks will break it all down coming up. And this last week marked former wrestling head coach Dan Gable's birthday, but it was a much bigger day than that. Find out his thoughts on what was declared as Dan Gable Day throughout the state of Iowa. Tracy Griesbaum's field hockey team fought for another epic come-from-behind victory Sunday. We'll recap that, plus hear their thoughts on hosting the Big Ten tournament coming up in Hawkeye Sports Report. Welcome into another week of Hawkeye Sports Report. It was another tough Saturday in the Big Ten for Iowa football, losing to Northwestern 28-17. For the first time this season, the team suffers back-to-back losses. Coach Ferentz was quick to note that despite the recent struggles, the team still has plenty to play for in the final month of the season.
I'll go down to Indiana, a team that's really playing well. They're coming off a good win, and it was on the road, obviously, but maybe even more impressive or just the way they've played in general and how they've played in their losses. Last couple losses they've had, 1 point to Navy, 3 points in a very wild open game against Ohio State, and the week before we played Michigan State. They really had them on their heels, played a great first half, ended up losing by 4 points. So they're a much better football team than we played last year, and I think on both sides of the football.
I think every week in this league you're going to play a team that's capable of putting up points. That's certainly been the case the last 2 weeks, and 17 and 14 points aren't going to get it done, respectively, what we've done the last 2 weeks. So we got to make sure that we're getting sevens when we get it down the red zone and don't stall out and kick field goals or even stay out of field goal range.
It's going to be tough for us. We got to watch a little more film than usual. They have a high-power offense, and they like to pass the ball. So we definitely gonna have our hands full, and we're gonna have to come and prepare a little more than we did last week.
For Northwestern, I mean, did it help to play Northwestern? That way you know what you're in for with an Indiana team this week?
It helped. They like to spread the ball. Indiana like to spread the ball, so that's going to help. Maybe not change many calls. I just think it just come down to a little more preparation.
Well, I think it's going to be a little bit more of the same of what we've seen last week, but definitely a very good offense. I mean, they put up a lot of points on a lot of good teams, and they're pretty solid up front. So it's going to just be another challenge for us defensively, and we're going to go in and put in a good game plan and trust the game plan, work it this week, and see what we can do on Saturday.
We now welcome in Hawkeye Radio Network's Rob Brooks. Rob, a tough game in Evanston on Saturday for the Hawkeyes, but if there was a bright spot, it sure had to be Damon Bullock.
Yeah, no question. I think a lot of Hawkeye fans forget how good Damon was really running the football before he got injured in September against UNI. And in having over 100 yards last week in Evanston, the impressive thing to me, did not have a carry over 9 yards, really gutted it out, ran tough in between the tackles, and he'll have to really carry the load this weekend.
Yep, and let's talk about, you really feel that in order for this offense to be effective, especially with the pass game struggling, that the run game really has to be effective.
Well, I think, one, that's Iowa football. I think when they run the ball well and can get into that play-action pass, that's when the offense is doing its best, particularly this year. But I think that's the opportunity that Iowa has. No Mark Weissman this weekend. It'll be Damon Bullock and Greg Garman. But when you look at Indiana, who scores a lot of points, they also give up a bunch. And they are last in total defense in the conference, last in rush defense. So that opportunity there, and you would think the offensive line, the running game, chomping at the bit.
The defense has really struggled the last couple weeks for Iowa. They're facing another high-tempo offense this weekend in Indiana.
Yeah, and I think offensively you have to control the clock. That is going to be number one when you want to keep that Indiana offense off the field. But it's a pass-heavy offense. They can run the football. They have a dual quarterback system, but it's always the receivers to me that really make Indiana tough to play against, because you almost look like they have high school all-state basketball players out there in the wideout positions. They're always big, physical guys. This year, Kofi Hughes at 6'2" and Cody Latimer at 6'3" really stand out. They're averaging over 100 yards per game. But Indiana also has 4 receivers that have already caught at least 26 passes.
Now, like a few weeks ago when we were talking about the Iowa-Minnesota game, that's a team that's much improved. And this Indiana team, like Minnesota, is a team that is also much improved.
Yeah, Kirk Ferentz mentioned it on Tuesday. The thing that has really stood out to him on tape is that they're much better in the lines, especially the offensive line. And I think that shows with the amount of points they've put on the board and the fact that they are hanging in games versus getting blown out in the past couple of years. And I think that was evident in that victory against Illinois on the road last weekend.
And finally, let's look at the standings here a little bit. If Iowa would go on the road and win at Indiana, This really sets up an interesting final few weeks of the season.
Well, we've talked all season long about November and what's it going to look like in the Legends division. Yes, Nebraska and Michigan appear to be playing the best, and they are in the driver's seat. Both have to hit the road this weekend. Nebraska, a tough game at Michigan State, and then Michigan has to get off the deck and go to Minneapolis to play a Minnesota team who played very well against Purdue last weekend. Then you have Northwestern and Iowa sitting there with just 2 losses. A lot to play for here in the final month.
Never know what can happen, right?
That's exactly right. Who knows?
All right. Well, Rob, we'll see you on Saturday at Bloomington. That game will kick off at 2:42 and can be seen on the Big Ten Network. Rob, thanks for stopping by.
Thank you.
We will now check out this week's Players of the Week. This week's Players of the Week are cross-country runner Marika Shrula and field hockey standout Sarah Drake. Shrula ran to an astounding second-place finish at the Big Ten Conference meet at Michigan State in a time of 20 minutes and 17 seconds. Drake was instrumental in Iowa field hockey's memorable come-from-behind win against 8th-ranked Northwestern on Sunday. Late in the second half, she scored the game-tying goal to send the game into overtime. Iowa winds up winning in overtime, a big win heading into this week's Big Ten tournament. Those are your Players of the Week. This last weekend was the biggest weekend to date for the nationally ranked field hockey team as they had matchups with 14th-ranked Michigan and 8th-ranked Northwestern. After losing a heartbreaker to Michigan on Friday 2-1, the team rebounded Sunday in a gutsy come-from-behind overtime win over the Wildcats. After falling behind 2-0 in the second half, the comeback was on. Natalie Cafone brought Iowa within 1 with 15 minutes remaining. Then just 2 minutes later, it's the senior on senior day. Sarah Drake lets the backhand fly. It finds the net and ties the game at 2. We head to overtime. Just over 5 minutes into overtime, junior Carly Johansson brings it up the sideline, lets it fly. Drake causes somewhat of a distraction. It actually goes by Drake, deflects off a Northwestern defender, and goes into the goal. That is obviously hands down this week's Play of the Week. Iowa wins 3-2 and earns the 4th seed in this weekend's Big Ten tournament right here in Iowa City.
Well, that game is huge, and just the way we finished and how we played a full 70 minutes was awesome. So just being able to know that we can play at that high caliber is just really going to help us as we prepare for these next teams.
We talked about at the end of the game that being one of the best team efforts we put forth this season, especially coming back and beating 8th-ranked Northwestern was an incredible thing for us to accomplish. So it's definitely going to give us a lot of momentum pushing forward in the Big Ten tournament. I know we're just going to take it day by day. And Michigan State's up first, so we're going to try and apply that team-oriented game again and see how we can get a result out of that.
I mean, it was a big adrenaline game. I mean, again, you don't want to find yourself down 2 goals, but we did, and we fought back. So I think it took a lot of, mental energy, but at the end of the game, I think it proved, that we can really play with anyone. I mean, top 10 team, and we can obviously come from a deficit or not and play really, really well. And we followed a game plan, which was huge for the whole entire game.
Another big event taking place in Iowa City over the weekend was the Head of the Iowa. It's the Iowa rowing team's only home event of the year and marked the first home meet for new head coach Steve Pritzker. Iowa had several boats in action throughout the day. Highlights on the day were the varsity 8A boat. They finished 3rd out of 19 boats. The varsity 4A boat also placed 3rd out of 22 teams. They had 3 squads place in the top 10 in that event. It will definitely be interesting to see where Coach Pritzker can take this team over the next few years. This past Thursday marked the 64th birthday of former wrestling head coach Dan Gable. However, the day ended up being much more than just another birthday, as Governor Terry Branstad declared the day as Dan Gable Day throughout the state.
We are celebrating Dan Gable Day, October 25th, 2012. This is Dan's 64th birthday. So Dan was born in Waterloo, Iowa. He means everything. Dan Gable is the quintessential figure in our sport. Imagine someone who retired in 1997 as a head wrestling coach at the University of Iowa. We're in 2012 and he's still the biggest name in the sport at age 64. That doesn't happen. Dan Gable is bigger to wrestling than any other figure in any other sport.
He's known worldwide for what he's done for the sport of wrestling. So having this proclamation, having the governor come here is just great for wrestling. It's great for our town of Waterloo, so everything's great about it.
Not too many people get their own days, and I'm one of them, and I know it represents something bigger than me. It represents, like excellence in the sport of wrestling. I don't need, maybe another just birthday party, but what I do need is a day that kicks off the wrestling season, or a day that represents wrestling, and that's what I hope this is all about.
One of the world's
greatest athletes, coaches, and mentors, was born October 25th, 1948, in Waterloo, Iowa. And we are proud to honor Dan Gable because he is one of our own.
Dan Gable lives the 6 pillars of character each and every day, and he's a great inspiration to the youth of our state. Now therefore I, Terry E. Branstad, Governor of the state of Iowa, do hereby proclaim this day, October 25th, 2012, as Dan Gable Day. And so we're going to ask the General Assembly to make this day, 25th day of October, permanently Dan Gable Day in Iowa.
It is also about the future, and that's what this place represents here. And that's what this day, going from 2012 to infinite, is going to represent, if we can get that done. So that's a much bigger deal. The governor's here now, and so I'm going to make sure he knows this state, worldwide, has many fine characteristics, and wrestling is one of them that has been there for 100 years. And when people are actually bump into people, they know Iowa. And they know Iowa for farming, for feeding the world, for Norman Borlaug. But they do know Iowa for wrestling.
I just look at him as a living legend and an inspiration to future generations, and we're proud that he continues to live in Iowa and continues to promote the great sport of wrestling and promote character.
Yeah.
The grandkids want to know if they get out of school every year on Dan Gable.
Listen, my vision's much higher than grandkids, I can tell you that. We need to close the school down that day.
I did just about everything growing up, whether organized sports or just playing with some friends, in the backyard. But one day I have an older brother who decided to go out for the middle school cross country team, and I hadn't really heard about cross country before, but he went out to run and I just wanted to go with him. I didn't want to be left behind, and he and my dad went out for a run together. I begged to come along, and they told me, oh, you won't make it. We're going, 3 miles, and I was just, I think, a 5th grader at that point, so they didn't think I'd make it, but I did. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done, but I found out I liked it. Once it was my turn in middle school to go, I knew that that was what I wanted to do, and so I went out for middle school cross country in 7th grade, and from there never really looked back.
When I saw him in high school, I thought he was a guy with a lot of undeveloped talent yet, although he was successful at Burlington High School. But I thought, with his speed and just the fact he was such a hard worker, a great student, that he could be a guy that would eventually be real successful in college.
We've got a great group of guys who all are working hard to improve, and so just working with those guys, the older guys who really kind of know what they're doing, and they can point you in the right direction. And I've got some great teammates who they're a little bit more advanced than I am, and every day I'm just striving to be like them and work as hard as I can. I'd like to think I could be 3rd, 4th on the team type of thing, and hopefully the bigger goals for me are for the team. We're looking to be really competitive.
He had a real good summer of preparation, and one of the things I say is for cross country, the summer is the first half of the cross country season. You've got to really lay the groundwork for success during the summer. He's done that. He's had a real good summer of base training, and so I think he's ready to step up and have a big year for us.
It's a really good dynamic, I think, for the team to have, because we know that where we're at right now, we've got a lot of talented young guys who are putting in a lot of good work, and we're starting to already kind of see that come along. We're having some success already, but we know that that's going to pay off really big dividends in the future.
He is a guy that I need to get him to believe how good he is. I think that's the key. Not to be a supporting cast member, but to be a guy that can take a lead role, that I can be the guy that can win this race. And that's what I want to see him develop into before, make progress on that this fall.
We had a kind of a setback last year when we wanted to compete a little bit better at the Big Ten, and I think that really fuels us this year.
I've been coaching a long time, and this is a group that I really enjoy, maybe as much as any team I have ever coached. And I think they bring, the cliche of want to, the desire.
It's a very good experience. Coach Wiz was a great runner here. He knows a lot about what he's talking about, and he's always got some inspirational words for you. It's just kind of something that we as runners have. We just love to go out and push ourselves like that. I think we take a lot of pride in being tough like that. As Coach Wiz says, you know, cross country is a tough man's sport, so we take a lot of pride in that, and we're at this level, so everybody at this level, to be a competitor, you have to want to get better and want to become the best.
So let's wrap up Hawkeye Sports Report with a look at what's ahead for Iowa athletics this weekend. The men's and women's swimming teams will continue their season as they head up to Minnesota on Friday. The volleyball team will spend the weekend in Michigan. They will take on Michigan State Friday night at 5:30 p.m., then travel to Michigan on Saturday for a contest at 6 p.m. They'll also be back in Iowa City next Wednesday to host Purdue, a team they defeated on the road, at 7 p.m. in Carver Hawkeye Arena. And it's hard to believe, but the men's and women's basketball teams will open up action Sunday in an exhibition doubleheader in Iowa City against Quincy College. The men's game tips off at 1 p.m. They will be followed by the women's team at 3:30 p.m. And as we mentioned, field hockey will play host to the Big Ten tournament out at Grant Field. Be sure to stop and check them out. And football will be on the road at Indiana. Kickoff set for 2:42 Central Time. Best of luck to everyone this weekend, and go Hawks!